what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Crewcast. I'm Jason Suchomel, joined by Cole Patterson, as always. Cole, we got some interesting stuff to talk about this week. It was a little bit more eventful of a weekend, I guess, last weekend than we anticipated.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that, as always, everybody, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Man, we're getting those numbers up, and you guys really help us out if you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and support our sponsor that you see there at the top, Prime Shrimp. Go to primeshrimp.com, promo code OrangeBloods, get $20 off your first order. Cole, I don't know if you noticed how observant you are, but I rearranged my little office, my little corner of the office, so you get a nice clear view of my treadmill behind, or my elliptical machine behind me. That probably
trying to prove that you work out.
No, that's the point. The problem is I don't even know if it works if I was to plug it in at this point. It just sits there and collects dust. My wife
just for show.
Yeah, basically, it makes me feel good about my yesteryear days when I used to actually work out a little bit. But I'm going to get back in the swing of it. I promise, dude. It's going to happen at some point. But anyways, let's talk about, again, last weekend was a pretty eventful weekend. We were all kind of taken by surprise. I think pretty much everybody was when on Saturday afternoon, I'm sitting on the couch. I'm not kidding, right over here. You can't see it, but I'm sitting on the couch watching, I think it was the Oklahoma game, TCU, and Jonah Wilson, the Texas receiver commitment, puts on Twitter that he has decommitted. And Catch sends us a message like, hey, this is on Twitter. I'm like, oh, crap, I did not know that. So, okay, so we post on Orange Bloods and start reaching out to Jonah. But, man, that really was a bombshell that I was not expecting. I did not see that one coming, Cole. Were you as flabbergasted as I was on Saturday afternoon when he posted that tweet?
Yeah, I mean, he's been committed, and he always talked about wanting to play with Arch, and he committed during that official visit weekend with Connor Stroh and all those commitments. I want to say it was the most shocking thing in the world, but it was definitely caught me by surprise. And then the timing of it was even weirder. Like you said, it was, kind of during college football Saturday, Texas was about to play that night, and just kind of casually tweeted something out that he was decommitting. There wasn't really much of a lead up or anything like that. Kind of played it under the radar, which is kind of how a lot of his recruitment's gone. He's not a guy that's all over social media or whatever in the sense that he's hyping himself up or, hyping his recruitment up. He's kind of does it his own way. He was wearing some Houston gloves at a couple of his games. I didn't really think that was anything alarming, but, it's always interesting when a committed player wears different, attire and things like that. But yeah, it was kind of surprising. I wonder if, I know you talked to him a little bit of what teams he's kind of looking at, and it sounds like Texas is still in the picture there. But yeah, it definitely was interesting timing.
Yeah, to do it on a Saturday afternoon and, a few hours before Texas kicks off, and just everything about it kind of was unexpected. I mean, when I talked to Jonah, I think it was, the calendar here, I think maybe 2.5 weeks ago, roughly. I mean, he was all in on Texas and, loved everything about it. And of course, Arch being there and Brennan Marion. And then he just drops that bombshell. And, you mentioned Houston and Houston gloves. That would just be, I mean, listen, it's possible, but that would just be a very odd choice. I mean, Houston's not playing particularly well. You don't see many guys go from Texas to Houston willingly. He mentioned to me, hey, he wanted to see some schools like Alabama and USC and Florida, schools that haven't offered him. He wanted to see, here's what I think happened. And Jonah hasn't told me this directly, but he did say, hey, I want some of these schools that haven't offered me. I want to see if maybe they're interested. Jonah's having a really good senior season. Okay. His stock's blowing up, and he knows if he's committed to Texas that schools like USC or Alabama or Florida or any other ones he wants, Texas A&M or whoever that he wants to hear from, they're probably not going to initiate things. They're not going to offer him while he's committed to Texas because, like everybody else, they assume he's locked in. So by doing this, he opens up the opportunity for some other schools to start recruiting him. He did tell me, hey, Texas is still very much in play. That would surprise me a little bit. I mean, it's not often that guys decommit and wind up going back to the same school. Maybe if he doesn't get the kind of interest he's hoping for from some of these other schools, maybe he winds up back in this class. I don't know. It's too early for that. But, I mean, I think Jonah has seen his stock increase this fall, and now he just maybe wanted to see what other opportunities that might bring in.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like you said, he's been off to a strong year, and if you're committed, you're probably less likely to hear from other schools. Maybe
Yeah.
a team like Alabama or USC circles back, and maybe they have a needed receiver on their board, and they see Jonah Wilson's film, and they see probably more interest. They're probably more inclined to reach out to him if he's not committed. So I mean, that's
Sure.
makes logical sense. But like I said, it's still a bit odd and kind of interesting timing.
And Jonah, to be clear, I want to state that Jonah did not tell me. I mean, he
Yeah.
mentioned those 3 schools, but he didn't tell me, hey, I'm decommitting because I want to gain more interest. He just said, I just kind of want to see what other schools are out there maybe. And he definitely didn't say this, but it's worth mentioning in today's day and age. I mean, people have asked about it. Like, could NIL be playing a part in this? I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it is because Jonah did not indicate that even 1% when he and I communicated on Saturday night. But maybe he's looking at, hey, man, I'm blowing up. My stock's blowing up. Maybe some of these other schools, they can't make NIL deals. But let's be honest. Teams talk about NIL stuff, even though they're not supposed to. Teams talk about NIL stuff and say, hey, if you come here, we've got this NIL program that'll work for you. So, maybe there's some stuff to that too. I don't know that for sure. I don't know it at all. Jonah's never said that to me, but we're just trying to say some of these things make some sense. So we'll see. Now, the question, Cole, where does Texas go from here at receiver? Well, I'll tell you what, before we get into that and some of the guys that Texas could try to reel in or maybe flip, let's stick with receiver. And then the other news that comes out Saturday is that Jonte Cook is in Oregon on an unofficial visit. Let me ask you this. What was more surprising, Jonte Cook being in Oregon on an unofficial visit or Jonah Wilson decommitting on Saturday afternoon?
That's a tough question. Decommitment is usually more surprising, but it was kind of interesting to see Jonte just casually up in Oregon. I know they had their bye week, and I do know he really likes Oregon, at least growing up, and he likes that staff a lot. So it's not necessarily out of the blue or the most random thing, but it's still kind of, again, like interesting that he decided to go up to Oregon on his own dime and everything. That's kind of,
it's not like he just went to TCU or Baylor or even Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I mean, that takes some effort to get to Oregon, right? So
yeah, or if he, I know he played up there in week 1 of this high school season. Not like he kind of stayed behind and I'm already in the area, might as well visit campus. No, it's definitely interesting. He spent his own time and money to go up there for a game visit. I mean, I wouldn't panic if you're a Texas fan by any means, but I do know he likes Oregon. At least has always kind of, I feel like, especially with today's day and age, Oregon, the cool uniforms, they had the cool offense when everybody was growing up. All these high schools were growing up and everything like that. So facilities and everything like that. So it's at least, going to catch people's eyes. And Jonte likes that staff a lot.
When I talked to Jonte about 2 weeks ago is all, I asked him what schools were still recruiting him. He mentioned Texas, A&M, Alabama, and Oregon. And he said, really, Oregon's the only one I even respond to. He goes, just because I really connected with those coaches. I like that staff. So when I heard he was visiting Oregon, I'm like, okay, it makes a little bit of sense, but unofficial visit, that's a lot of work. But, Jonte was pretty upfront about it. I mean, I texted him on Saturday and he got back with me immediately and we were talking via text. He goes, man, Texas has nothing to worry about. He goes, I just want to get away. It was off week. I want to get away and watch some football. I'm like, hey, man, I kind of get it. I've never been to the Oregon campus, but I've been to parts of Oregon. And it's beautiful up there, man. So I understand why he'd want to go.
Cool stadium.
Yeah. Again, I've never been to the stadium, but I've been up there for the opening and those things. And it's just the whole area is beautiful. But whole Pacific Northwest, in fact, is beautiful. But he did say that Texas has nothing to worry about. He goes, I just want to come up here and watch some football. It's still solid. He kind of indicated to me, again, this is just us kind of casually talking via text. And he goes, hey, man, but I don't want to see Texas, play better and, beat Oklahoma next week. And, of course, Texas then goes out and beats West Virginia pretty convincingly. The Oklahoma game yet to be seen, but that's a game I think Texas should win. So, assuming Texas doesn't just really stumble all over itself, I would be mildly surprised if Jonte Cook wasn't in this class in the end. But hey, man, it's recruiting. Jonte's a top national, borderline 5-star type talent. You're going to have to fend off other schools. They're not going to go away just because he commits to you. Same with Malik Muhammad, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But I want to stick with receivers, Cole. So, where does Texas go from here? I mean, yeah, they'll try to keep Jonah Wilson in the class, but there aren't a lot of other options out there in terms of receivers to kind of add to this class. So, They got Jonte committed. Obviously, we just talked about Ryan Niblett still committed. He's solid, but let's talk. Mikael Harrison-Pilot is out there, but he just visited TCU. There's some buzz that TCU now has confidence. DeAndre Moore, the receiver out of St. John Bosco out in California, committed to Louisville. Supposed to visit Texas. I'm still on the fence if that's going to happen. I'm trying to confirm that. We've talked about Kyle Parker, committed to LSU. Could Texas potentially flip him? People have asked about Jaquez Petaway, committed to Oklahoma. With Oklahoma struggling, might Texas be able to make some inroads there? I don't know. But, I mean, Cole, kind of you take me through it, man. Where do you think Texas goes from here, maybe to fill out this wide receiver class?
Yeah, I don't want to, be a Debbie Downer or anything, but it's kind of crazy how I want to say it's come crashing or anything, but just, it seemed like last month Texas was going to add Jalen Hale to this class to Jonte Cook, Jordan Wilson and Ryan Niblett. And worst case, if he didn't join the class, Mikael Harrison-Pilot was kind of plan B. And like I said, there's a lot of buzz around TCU. He was just there. He's been pretty vocal about that visit. Since coming back home, you guys see them watch Oklahoma or beat Oklahoma pretty badly, pretty convincingly. And I know TCU's kind of always been high on his list. So now that doesn't really seem like a sure thing by any means. Jaylen Gray, Jaden Grayhouse is a guy committed to Notre Dame. It's a local guy. You don't know if it doesn't really seem like they're going to flip him. Jaylen Brown was another guy that they were in on at one point. He's committed to LSU. It seems like all these guys are committed at other places. When
I talked to Greathouse, just to jump in real quickly, it was about 2 weeks ago because his name came up. He goes, man, I haven't even heard from Texas since I committed. Now, maybe that changes with the Jonah Wilson situation. And he said to me, he goes, I'm pretty locked in with Notre Dame, barring something crazy happening with Notre Dame. So, sorry to interrupt you. But, yeah, man, not a lot of great options. So, go ahead, Cole. I'm sorry.
I was talking – no, you're fine because that kind of brings me to a point. I was – every time I check in with Kyle Parker, he seems like he's always locked in with LSU. He has – family from Louisiana. His dad actually went to LSU, and Texas was really high on his list and seemed like the favorite at one point in time. So there was always some thought maybe they circle back to that. And I'll see Kyle actually on Thursday. That's the plan right now. It's check in with him. But I don't really see him as a realistic target at this point either. LSU's playing really well, and it's kind of hard to turn down playing wide receiver at LSU. It seems like all these other guys are committed, and maybe DeAndre Moore, they can get him on campus. I know Arch is kind of recruited him on social media, but if they're going to add another guy, it's either going to be Jonah Wilson. They're probably going to flip somebody. Maybe a guy like Savion Red, emerges, somebody kind of in that tier, so to speak. Maybe a late bloomer or kind of a late riser they can take in the state or something along those lines. But it seems like they're going to add Jalen Hale and have 4, really big time players. And
2 weeks ago we were thinking they're going to be turning guys away, and now we're like, how are they going to fill out this?
I can see why people are panicking. I don't think it's the end of the world. You still have a borderline 5-star in Jonte in the class. Catch, I think, thinks Ryan Niblett's a 5-star as well. So that's another elite talent. But it's kind of weird, kind of strange to see wide receiver recruiting. I want to say crashing down, and they're kind of going sideways. So we'll see how they kind of reverse course on that. You have Arch Manning in your back pocket to kind of sell guys. Quinn Ewers, once he gets back on the field, is another selling point. So there's a long way to signing day, but it's kind of interesting what's all transpiring.
Yeah, and Jonah was a good complement to the 2 receivers that Texas still has. He's a big outside receiver. Jonte can do some of that stuff too, but didn't have the size that Jonah does. So he was a nice complementary piece that just gave you different styles. That's going to be tough to replace. Not to say that they're done with Jonah Wilson, but it's intriguing to me because you think with Sark in this offense and Arch Manning coming in Quinn Ewers, you mentioned, wide receiver recruiting should almost sell itself, you'd think.
Brennan Marion just coached Jordan Addison. There's so many things in Texas' favor, you would think.
Yeah, you'd think guys would be racing to be like the first commitment to lock up their spot, but it's not. Does not happen that way, man. That's why we love recruiting, right? You never know from week to week to year what's going to happen. We're talking about teenagers, so who the hell can tell what's going to happen from week to week, man? So, let's bounce around, Cole, and flip over to defense a little bit. I want to talk about a couple players. One being Malik Muhammad, the Texas cornerback commitment. just kind of some weird mixed signals. Like it was reported yesterday that he's not going to visit Alabama this weekend. He was never scheduled to visit Alabama this weekend. To my knowledge, he's scheduled to visit Alabama 2 weeks from now. That was for an official visit. Now that's been pushed back till December, but we're hearing that he's going to take an unofficial visit to Alabama in 2 weeks and then go back for an official visit. So,
A lot going on.
yeah, that's a little dicey, man. Anytime if he takes
And there's
one
the
visit to Alabama, that's worrisome. If he takes two, that's really worrisome. So,
and the
I don't know,
A&M visit kind of sandwiched in between.
yes, you're absolutely right. He's got A&M. I guess it'd be right after the
28th, I'm
Alabama
pretty sure.
unofficial visit if he ends up taking that. But yeah, I don't know, man. How alarmed should Texas fans be about Malik Muhammad taking these other visits? Again, top national player, elite, Rivals 100 player. You're going to have to fend off these guys until signing day. But Cole, how worried should Texas fans be about Malik Muhammad?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to be at least a level of worried. I wouldn't say, sound the alarms and panic that he's still committed. He's still in the class. He still has, Arch and Jonte, people like that in his ear. They want to keep him in the class for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, you have to worry at least a little bit. He's taking other visits. It's not even just, some regular visits, some game visits with teammates. He's going to see Nick Saban, Alabama twice. We'll see if both of those visits happen. But as of now, he's going to see Nick Saban, Alabama twice. And it's always hard to turn down Nick Saban, especially if you're a DB. Texas A&M, they're working hard to get him in for that OV at the end of the month. And he's teammates with Javon Thomas. And I don't even have to repeat all the defensive talent they've gotten over the last year or so in this year's class as well. So, I mean, there's definitely some worry. And I think Texas definitely needs to get him, one, back on campus, and two, put a good product on the field starting this weekend against Oklahoma. Like you said, they just beat West Virginia pretty convincingly, but I don't think that's really going to turn anybody's head, especially this year's West Virginia team. They come out and make a statement against Oklahoma. We'll see what happens there. But, yeah, I think they need to get him back on campus, kind of, get him around the coaches and everything like that, and put a good product on the field. But as of now, with those 3 visits, two to Alabama, 1 to Texas A&M, you definitely have to have some level of worry for sure.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if the Texas staff tries to put some sort of recruiting event together, maybe in December or something. I mean, they'll be doing some official visits, I'm sure. Well, there's not a lot of guys left.
He already took his Texas official visit, and
right.
Same with Michaela Harrison Pilot, for instance.
Yeah.
They took it in the summer, and they both took it.
That's why I think it'd be wise for them to have can't do a pool party, obviously, but whatever that kind of party you want to have in Austin in December. Get those guys back on campus just to kind of, fend off some of these other teams, maybe help remind them of why they picked Texas to begin with. Because you're right, they've already done their official visit. So the only way you can get them back on campus is for an unofficial visit. Maybe if you get, have a bit of an event, maybe it makes some of these guys more inclined to visit. Cole, I'm going to let you bring us home on this one. You went and saw a guy that I really like. We've talked about him a lot. A guy that I think right now I have predicted to be in this class in the end, defensive tackle Marcus Deal. You went and saw him late last week, and you got a chance to talk to him. So kind of your thoughts on Marcus.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big fan of Marcus. He dominates on both sides of the ball. I know you, last time we talked about him on here, you brought up his defensive line highlights, and he's just a beast, man. He's really big, he's strong, and kind of overpowers guys. And got to see him twice in the last few weeks, and he always talks really high of Texas. I talked to him right before that Alabama game, and then I caught up with him again this past week, and he loved that visit. He really likes Bo Davis a lot. Sounds like Bo Davis has hit it off with him and kind of really sold him on, the vision of playing at Texas. I'm also pretty close, maybe potentially putting a future cast in for Texas. I know, Rivals analyst Nick Harris, he's also pretty high on Texas chances there. I want to see how Texas does against Oklahoma. He's going to be at that game, and he wants to see how they continue to improve. He was impressed by that Alabama performance. He thinks it showed that they were pretty close to taking that next step and competing for titles and everything like that, which has his attention, obviously. They're still trying to decide between Texas and Oklahoma for that last OV. Pretty confident it'll end up being Texas, especially, like I said, if they take care of business and put a good product in the field. He's told me he has a better relationship at this point with that staff and everything like that. But he did just officially visit Georgia, and that's always, something worth monitoring. He likes Georgia a lot. TCU's kind of always been in that mix as well. But assuming Texas is able to land that last official visit, he told me he wants to make a decision a commitment right after, or pretty shortly after that last OV. Assuming Texas lands that, I don't see how he's not in this class. But yeah, he loves Bo Davis, really likes Texas. He told me he doesn't really talk to too many commits. He'll talk to them on campus. It's not like anybody is really in his ear, he told me. But, really likes Bo Davis, likes Texas, likes the campus. And I think as long as they get that last OV, I'm pretty confident he'll be in this class.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Texas and Oklahoma battling for that last official visit.
Yeah.
Obviously going to be at the game this weekend as a guest of Oklahoma's, but that gets overblown because, people are like, oh, he's going to the game as a guest of Oklahoma's. Oklahoma coaches can't even talk to these recruits at this game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a feather in your cap. Yeah, if you win the game and you can say, hey, come be a part of this kind of atmosphere, but that can backfire too if you go up there and don't play well. But neutral site games, for people who don't know, I mean, there can be no contact with recruits at that game with the coaches. Usually what will happen is literally on the way home from the game, the coaches will pick up the phone and call the kids, hey, what'd you think? And, then they'll kind of.
And like you said, he's choosing between both teams in the game. It's a neutral site game. He's in Garland. It's not really too far at all from Dallas. Why not just get a free ticket to the game?
Yeah, it'd be crazy. Yeah, crazy not to go. So, all right, Cole. Well, hey, man, we're going to wrap this one up. And it has been a kind of eventful week, much more than we really anticipated, I think. So maybe that's going to be the new norm as we're into October now. So we start heading towards signing day in December. Yeah, man. So, we'll keep our thumb on some of these stories that we talked about. We'll see if Jonah Wilson gets back into the mix with Texas maybe, or vice versa. If Texas gets back in the mix with Jonah Wilson, we'll keep an eye on Jonte and Malik Muhammad and some of these other situations. So do us a favor, as I said at the beginning of the video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also do us a favor, do yourself a favor, go try Prime Shrimp. Go to primeshrimp.com, promo code OrangeBloods, get $20 off your first order. I'm Jason Suchomel. That's Cole Patterson. Blake Skaggs behind the scene makes this thing run smoothly. So shout out to Blake, our producer. Everybody have a great week. And Cole and I will be back probably early next week to update with whatever else is going on at that point. Y'all take care.